I don't even know why I'm making this video. It's pretty obvious that Nintendo doesn't want me, RGT85, to talk about Metroid Dread, because they tried at least 3 times to take my Metroid Dread review down. Now, I haven't heard anything from Nintendo since I actually made that video. Shoutouts to everyone who watched that video and supported me. A lot of you guys made videos talking about it yourselves. Some people agreed with me, some people agree with Nintendo. That's cool, man. Everyone's gonna have an opinion at the end of the day. I've been in the game doing reviews for nearly 10 years now. I started with the website back in January of 2012, so it'll be 10 years that I've been in the video game industry, I guess you would say. So I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing by now, and I haven't ever gotten in any sort of trouble before, but hey, everyone has an opinion, except for those weirdos who think I just made the whole thing up. Like, wow. But anyways, you're here to hear about Metroid Dread sales because, well, I have a vested interest or disinterest in the success of Metroid Dread. Now, of course, I have multiple copies of the game. I have my special edition of the game, but I have a bet going on with the Spawncast that Metroid Dread was not going to sell 3 million in its first year, or else I have to play Balan Wonderworld for a video on the channel. Spawnwave even sent me this lovely calendar so I could mark it on here when I'm going to play it. I'm surprised I haven't thrown it away yet, to be honest with you. But yesterday, like I said, we got the first US sales figures for this game. I've also compiled sales figures for the UK and Japan, and I'm still cool as a cucumber. I know those numbers are big, but I completely expected those numbers to be big, and I don't think it's an indication of this game selling over 3 million copies. So what am I talking about? Am I just talking out my ass? I mean, maybe, but I'll convince you that I know what I'm talking about in this video. So, hey y'all, RGT here. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, like, and share the video. But without any further ado, let's talk about good old Metroid Dread and what is going on with this game. So, like I said, yesterday we got the physical and digital sales for Metroid Dread thus far as of November 1st for the Nintendo Switch for the United States of America, and it is 854,000. An impressive amount of sales, especially for a Metroid game in just simply 3 weeks. But I kind of expected it to be that. A lot of people are saying that they feel that this game is over 1.5 million sold between all of the regions now, but I think that math is a little bit off. So like I said, we have 854,000 for the United States with digital and physical sales. Over in Japan, according to Famitsu, as of November 7th, we have 128,257 copies sold in Japan. So, we're sniffing around a million between those two numbers, high 90s, 970 or so with that. And then as far as the UK is concerned, we actually don't have a concrete number for that. Now, according to GamesIndustry.biz, Metroid Dread was the fastest selling Metroid game in the UK based on gross, as in sales, because obviously this was a $60 game. The previous fastest selling game was Metroid Prime. Now, Metroid Prime is still the king when it comes to physical sales as far as the fastest, but Metroid Dread was right there, of course, not taking into account digital sales. So I thought to myself, well, how many copies of Metroid Prime sold in the UK life to date, so we could sort of get an indication on this? And 470,000 copies of Metroid Prime on the Nintendo GameCube sold for the... And 470,000 units life to date is how many copies of Metroid Prime 1 sold on the Nintendo GameCube. So UK isn't really the biggest place in the world for Metroid games. If 470,000 is tops, and Metroid Dread did not beat Metroid Prime in terms of box sales, it was just gross revenue because of the fact that the game was $10 more, but you also have the digital market to account for. I will say 200,000 copies sold. I think that's a fair number. Of course, 470,000 copies of Metroid Prime 1 sold, so that's a little, you know what, let's say 225. Let's say 225. So if we add up all the things together, we got about 1.2 million sold thus far for Metroid Dread on the Nintendo Switch. Plus we have other regions. I believe I saw somewhere that it sold like 10,000 copies in Brazil, which is actually pretty impressive. So let's just say 1.3 million to round up and just get a good indication. And you know what? I kind of expected that because it's never been about Metroid Dread selling good at first. I expected this game to sell very well at first. You can go back and watch all of my videos. I always say that Metroid Dread was going to have a very hot start because Metroid fans were hungry for a game. If you want to say that there's a Nintendo Switch effect, cool. Let's say that there is a Nintendo Switch effect, and let's go ahead and include that in there for the hot sales of this game. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch is a very valuable platform, but I really feel like if we don't hear over 2 million for the end of the year, not the fiscal year, but the end of the year as in 2021 for Metroid Dread, it's not going to hit 3 million copies because unlike games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Animal Crossing, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, those games have legs because they have wide appeal. Metroid Dread was made for me. It was made for you. It was made for those who love hardcore experiences from Nintendo because Metroid isn't a very casual franchise, and let's be realistic, this game did absolutely nothing to make it more casual. People were ripping their hair out over this game, saying it was too difficult because they've never really experienced a Metroidvania game in this style. If it was their first time playing a Metroid game, it's not a very inviting game. It's pretty hardcore. You have to have some good skills in order to get far in this game and beat this game and be successful at this game with the boss battles and the Emmy and things of that nature. So I was never going to be surprised if Metroid had a very hot start. Metroid Dread, that is. I expected it to have a hot start. It's the legs that I'm worried about. And you might be saying, well, RGT, Metroid Prime almost sold 3 million units in its full entire life cycle, so why wouldn't Metroid Dread be able to do that and have similar legs, especially when it has a larger user base than the Nintendo GameCube? And there's a very simple answer for that, at least in my opinion. I feel that Metroid Dread does not have that casual reach, but Metroid Prime did. Now you see, gotta go back to that time frame, the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era. Metroid Prime was still a hardcore game. It was still a game that, was very challenging. But when you look at Metroid Prime and you look at Metroid Dread, there's one thing that definitely stands out, and that's of course the graphical style of the game. Metroid Prime, when it released on the GameCube, was one of the best looking, if not the best looking console games available at that time. Whereas a game like Metroid Dread, it's beautiful, it has a great art style, but it's not something that somebody casual is going to walk by, somebody playing, Metroid Dread in a store or something on a Switch kiosk and say, oh wow, I really need to get that game. Whereas Metroid Prime, it had that impact, it had that effect because it looked amazing. It was one of the best looking games available on the platform and really one of the best looking games available at that time. So I feel like Metroid Prime actually did have more of a casual reach than a traditional 2D Metroid game. And then of course you have to look at the fact that, like I said in a previous video recently, 2022 is going to be pretty much batshit crazy for the Nintendo Switch just with games we know about. Look at games like Pokemon Arceus, Breath of the Wild 2, Splatoon 3, Advance Wars, Bayonetta 3. There's a lot of Nintendo Switch games that we already know about coming in 2022, and that's not including the surprise games that are going to be announced as well, because there's going to be more to it. And then there's the whole thing that Metroid Prime is supposedly getting a full-on remake for the Nintendo Switch, and then we also have Metroid Prime 4 to talk about as well. There could still be the trilogy of Metroid Prime, so I feel like announcements like that and games like that are simply going to overshadow Metroid Dread, because those who pretty much wanted that game more than likely have already picked it up. So really, I don't care at the end of the day. People make this to be like such a big deal and they think I get so angry about it. I have fun on social media. I have fun in my videos. I have fun when I talk about video games because 9 times out of 10, it's not really all that serious. There are topics that we cover on this channel that are serious. There are topics that I definitely take, a more serious stance on, but this sort of stuff, I don't care. Worst case, I have to play Balan Wonderworld and like people are gonna tune in for that. So I'm gonna make money on that video making that. I just want to get you guys in preparation for just in case Metroid Dread doesn't sell 3 million copies, because while this hot start was definitely needed for Metroid Dread, I expected it. I completely expected this. This is all going according to plan to what I thought this game was going to do. It's the next 6 months that are really going to be make or break. If March comes around, March 22, and we don't get a substantial update on Metroid Dread, if it's not over 2 million by March's fiscal year report, then I don't think it's hitting 3 million. But maybe I'm completely wrong on all of this. Maybe Metroid Dread is going to sell 5 million. There's people on Twitter saying that Metroid Dread, oh, it probably already sold over 3 million. And I'm like, we just learned that it sold under 1 million in the US in 3 weeks. Where did these other sales come from? Do we not know a math? Do we not know basic math? I mean, they are doing that weird Common Core math shit in schools now. I don't get that. Also, before we go, I finally got a Switch OLED. I'm not gonna make a video on it because everyone and their freaking mother has made a video on it, and honestly, I don't really have anything to add to it. I will say that it is interesting because it has the sort of like a metal backing as opposed to the plastic backing on the standard Nintendo Switch. The screen itself, I mean, it looks glorious. You know, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City. These versions of the game, they're definitely not the most polished thing in the world, but I definitely really like this system. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to replace my Switch with this one because I have a lot of crap on there and I don't really want to transfer it. But shout outs to my homie. He actually pre-ordered 2 by accident, so I ended up getting it off of him because he also had something he wanted to send to the house. I just wanted to show that, guys, to you very briefly. I also got that N64 controller in for the Switch so I can play the N64 games. But let me know what you think of this Metroid Dread. Am I coping? Am I coping with this situation? Am I just trying to delay the inevitable that I'll have to play Balan for you people? Or do you think I know what I'm talking about? Do you think that I have a good chance of still being right with this? Because it's not a sprint. It's a marathon with Metroid Dread, a marathon. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to check out all the videos from this past week. There's Grand Theft Auto, there's Shin Megami Tensei, there's news videos, there's all sorts of fun stuff going on the channel. I got some more fun stuff coming up for you guys next week as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.